Biting wind scours snow-capped peaks and endless forests, carrying the sharp scent of frost and pine. Rivers, deep and ancient, twist through valleys like silver threads, and distant mountains stand vigilant, like silent sentinels over the untamed wilderness below. Occasionally, a massive footprint in the mud, or lumbering figure in the distance, reminds you that some things in this land are larger than life. A handful of weathered villages cling stubbornly to the edges of civilization, each one offering a flicker of warmth and safety. But beyond their walls, the world is harsh, indifferent, and unforgiving. Weary patrols trudge along winding roads, travelers whisper of marauders and creatures that should not exist, and smoke curls from the remains of burned homesteads. High overhead, a dragon's roar shatters the air, a stark reminder that danger is never far. It's a land of staggering scale, endless in every direction, yet curiously hollow at its core. Roads stretch on for days, taverns sit mostly empty, and forests promise danger that rarely fully manifests. These, of course, are the lands of Storm King's Thunder is a campaign with huge potential. It gives players an enormous sandbox, a sprawling overworld, and countless opportunities for adventure across the savage frontier. But ask anybody who's run it, and you'll hear the same complaint time and time again. The overworld is as wide as an ocean and as deep as a puddle. Sure, there's something like 160 keyed locations in the campaign, but many of them only get a short paragraph, and players often end up wandering aimlessly, stumbling into places that feel like just every other village in any other nameless corner of the savage frontier. Now, that bait and switch intro wasn't for nothing. The wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle sentiment is shared across both the savage frontiers of Skyrim and Storm King's Thunder. Having recently gotten my grubby mitts on a machine that can actually run modded Skyrim on ultra settings, I've had mods on the mind. Question then. If you can use mods to improve the overworld in the frozen north of Tamriel, can you draw inspiration from them to make Storm King's Thunder's legendarily boring overworld actually deep, fun, and engaging? Let's look at the factions first. Storm King's Thunder assumes the giant uprising is the big backdrop to the campaign, but in a world this big, other factions would definitely be trying to take advantage of the chaos. Small folk and regional powers alike wouldn't just sit idly by. In vanilla Skyrim, the civil war between the Empire and the Stormcloaks plays out in a fairly static way, with limited battles and limited consequences. The Civil War Overhaul mod expands this into a dynamic, evolving conflict, adding more battles, patrols, and random encounters, making faction choice carry much more weight, and transforming the Civil War into an ongoing struggle that reshapes Skyrim as the player gets involved. Now think of all of the factions present in Storm King's Thunder: the Pirate Lords of Luskin, the Zentarim, otherwise known as the Black Network, the Harpers, Kraken Society, Emerald Enclave, Lords Alliance, Order of the Gauntlet, or even smaller groups like roving mercenary bands and Uthgardt barbarian tribes. They should all be present in the frontier. And not just as names on a page, they are likely to be an open conflict. Factions trying to gain ground, hold territory, raid supply lines, or manipulate local politics. This gives the players much more than just giants are causing trouble. It makes the savage frontier feel like a region in real upheaval. Make territorial maps for factions, highlight where the Zentarim hold sway or where Luskin raiders push inland. Wealthy barons are likely to come into conflict with the Emerald Enclave as civilization eats away at the land's great forests. Let those borders change as the campaign goes on. If the party isn't aligned with a faction, perhaps they're contacted by competing factions with conflicting ideals. Maybe a Harper agent asks the party to burn down a Zentrum outpost while the Lord's Alliance wants to negotiate a peace with the Black Network. Or the secretive Kraken Society offers gold and more than gold if an unscrupulous party kidnaps a minor political player and delivers him to the Kraken's clutches. In the depths of the wilderness, the party encounters a Lord's Alliance war camp mobilizing for a raid against an Emerald Enclave outpost. Tension crackles as soldiers sharpen blades and scouts return with word of the enemy's defenses. The adventurers can join the raid for political favor and a share of the spoils, warn the Enclave to earn safe passage through one of their forests, or remain neutral and risk angering both sides. The party stumbles upon the aftermath of an ambush. A Zentarim supply convoy has been attacked by rival mercenaries. Some wagons burn in the distance while survivors fight a desperate retreat. Do the adventurers intervene, loot the chaos, or stay hidden and watch who comes out on top? If the party steps in, they risk drawing the attention of whichever faction benefits from seizing these supplies. A patrol of frost giants and their winter wolves is locked in battle with an Uthgard warband in the open tundra. Both sides are bloodied, but neither backs down. If the party enters the fray, they can tip the balance towards one side, or use the confusion to strike at weakened survivors. Either way, they'll have to decide whether to reveal themselves or let the battle play out and then deal with whoever wins. In Skyrim, one of the most effective mods for making the world feel alive is immersive patrols. You'll see groups of Stormcloaks, Imperials, Thalmor, or even Dawnguard moving through the world, sometimes clashing with each other. We can bring that same idea into Storm King's Thunder. Imagine your players traveling through the spine of the world and running into an Uthgard raiding party on their way home from a skirmish, or passing a caravan of Zentarim couriers trying to move supplies north, or maybe a band of frost giants tracking a white dragon that has encroached upon their hunting grounds. It doesn't always need to be a combat encounter. Sometimes it's an opportunity for negotiation, recruitment, or just gathering rumors. But having these moving parts in the wilderness makes the overworld feel alive, reactive, and dangerous. Create a random travel table that mixes patrols, caravans, skirmishes, merchants, and neutral travelers. Not every encounter should be hostile, and maybe you could throw in some drunk revelers or a distrustful tabaxi. Think about consequences. If the players wipe out a Zentarim patrol, maybe supplies run short at the next Zent-controlled town, or maybe those supposedly drunk revelers are Kraken Society members reporting on the party's movements. A battered caravan of dwarves limps down the road after being ambushed by rampaging hill giants. Now they need the party's help to recover stolen goods. A Zentarim courier carries sealed documents that could reveal faction plans if the players can intercept them. Very Skyrim. A frost giant leads a chained white dragon wormling across the tundra, debating whether to raise it or eat it. If the giants are tearing the world apart, that should leave a mark. Settlements don't just spring up as if nothing happened. Show the aftermath. Burned villages on the roadside, fields left fallow because farmers have fled, refugees trudging towards the next city desperate for work or food. Corpses picked over by carrion birds, and famine in places that rely on trade routes now blocked by conflict. You can even tie these into quests, helping to rebuild a razed town, delivering supplies, or investigating a massacre to find out which faction was responsible. These kinds of details show the impact of the war and make the players feel like they're part of a living, changing world. Add visual scars. Make every journey show signs of war, broken wagons, razed watchtowers, or black smoke in the distance. You can have this increase in frequency and severity over time. Use refugees to feed rumors they've seen and maybe even participated in battles, heard about faction movements, or fled from dragon and giant attacks. Where people go, news and rumor follows. In Golden Fields, the city's granaries are under siege, but not from giants, from dozens or even hundreds of refugees demanding food. This gives the party a moral dilemma and demonstrates the effect of the giant uprising and turmoil that's plaguing the land. A traveling priest begs the heroes to help escort a starving caravan through ogre or giant infested hills. A burned village shows signs of battle, but the bodies belong to both giants and humans, or opposing small folk faction soldiers. But which faction started it? Another common complaint is that the adventure starts off in Nightstone, but the Savage Frontier is enormous. This is certainly the largest map I've ever run for a table, and might be the largest of the official 5e modules. The campaign doesn't need to funnel every group through the same bottleneck. Instead, taking inspiration from Skyrim's alternate start Live Another Life, we can let our players choose from a range of beginnings. They could start as Harper spies embedded in Waterdeep, Zhentarim agents sent north from Darkhold, caravan guards who stumbled into trouble when their wagon cuts through the Lurkwood. Even something as humble as rat catchers who end up crossing paths with a cultist in a nameless tavern. This approach doesn't just change the opening, it sets the tone for the entire campaign. It makes the players feel like they belong to the world rather than being passengers on a preset railroad. Tie the start to the characters' backstories. If someone's a harper, start them in Waterdeep on a covert mission. If someone's a mercenary, begin with a caravan ambush. This is something you'll want to have a conversation with your players about before character creation, which will help them come to an agreement on where they'd like to start and why they're there in the first place. You could even offer a menu of starting hooks during session 0 and let the party pick one. Delegates of the Lord's Alliance tasked with investigating missing tribute shipments to Neverwinter, only to uncover frost giant raids disrupting trade routes. Treasure seekers aboard a Luskan whaling ship who survive a giant attack at sea and are forced to take refuge in a port now crawling with Kraken Society agents. Members of a Mirabar mining expedition trapped underground when stone giants collapse tunnels in search of long-lost relics. Escorts for a traveling bardic troupe whose performance in Tribor is interrupted by giants demanding tribute from the terrified townsfolk. Freelancers commissioned by the Emerald Enclave following strange weather patterns and unnatural migrations of beasts that signal giant unrest across the north. In Skyrim, one of the most popular mods is Lawbringer, which allows factions to take over keeps and territory dynamically. Why don't we do the same for Storm King's Thunder? Imagine Luskan pirates slowly expanding their influence along the northern Sword Coast, or Imrif's lieutenants devastating towns that resist her. Maybe the Zhentarim or Kraken Society claim a major city. This doesn't just have to stay in the background either. The players can be involved in retaking towns, shifting the balance of power, or deciding who controls what. It creates a moving front line across the map, and players see the consequences of their victories or their failures. Track territory shifts on a shared map so the players literally see the borders move. Let the party's choices tip the scales. Who they ally with or abandon should change outcomes. Tribor flies Luskan banners when the party returns. Do they liberate it or negotiate with the pirate raiders? The Harpers ask for a party to sabotage a Zhentarim stronghold before it can be fully garrisoned. Imrif's Dragonspawn torch a resistance town. Survivors beg the heroes to help them retake it. Finally, one of the simplest but most powerful tools: ordinary people. Not everyone the players meet should have a quest, a treasure map, or a secret identity. Sometimes it's just a cabbage seller with a cart, or a group of teenagers skipping stones on a lake, or a half-elf artist painting the mountains. These inconsequential NPCs make the world feel lived in. They remind the players that it isn't just a stage for their story, it's a real world where people go about their lives even if the giants never notice them. Sprinkle these NPCs into travel sequences, taverns, and villages. They don't need stat blocks or mechanics, just a detail or two. Use them to add texture and a sense of time passing. The cabbage cart today might be overturned tomorrow after a giant raid. A dwarf stonemason sharpening his tools by the roadside, cursing his luck after losing his apprentices. Children chasing chickens in a muddy village square. One of them dares another to pickpocket the party. A half elf painter setting up an easel on a cliffside, determined to capture the mountains before war swallows them all. Storm King's Thunder gives us an incredible sandbox, but it needs work to feel alive. Drawing from Skyrim mods, Civil War overhauls, immersive patrols, faction takeovers, alternate starts, you can transform the Savage Frontier into a dynamic, living world. One where the players don't just wander aimlessly from one underdeveloped village to another, but instead find themselves caught in the middle of conflict, politics, survival, and upheaval. The end result isn't just a better campaign, it's a story where the overworld itself becomes a character. Alive, dangerous, and unforgettable. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, bye. You okay? Hungry, aren't you?